getting set up. Alright. Alright. Making a coffee, guys. Making a cup of coffee. Wow, beautiful day today, man. Just opened up the window. Lots of good looking foliage out there. Beautiful trees. If you please, don't make you sneeze. All them trees. Maybe they hold the keys. Alright. Let's get with it. Y'all ready to get jiggy? Let's get jiggy. Alright. Time to get jiggy with it. Make yourself a couple of black magic. Get ready to settle in. Take a deep breath. Hold it for a moment. And exhale. Let it out. Command yourself to relax. Holy art thou, Lord of the universe, the vast and mighty one, creator of heaven and earth, maker of all things visible and invisible, master of both the light and the darkness. He who was, is, and shall be. We adore thee and we invoke thee. Send us one of your divine spiritual agents, our holy guardian angel, to protect and guide us through the innumerable snares of the earthly sphere, and a cleansing wind to disperse all negativity and endless human opinion. Teach us those secret things which we must know for the completion of the great work and the glory of thine ineffable name, Adonai. So it is commanded and confirmed. So mote it be. Amen. Hail unto thee who art Ra in thy rising, even unto thee who art Ra in thy strength, who travellest over the heavens at the uprising of the sun. Tahuti standeth in his splendor at the prow, and Rahor abideth at the helm. Hail unto thee from the abodes of the night. Welcome back, Wayfarer. Remember, O neophyte, goodness alone is power, silence is strength. Will regaineth omnipotence, and love lieth at the foundation. Here we go. Once again, like Finnegan, if you've got a yin to expand your kin, then let's get zen. We're going to get jiggy with it. Frank Monday broadcasting to you from the central kingdom of the celestial dragon twilight zone, old Peking, far behind the bamboo firewall. About to get busy with it, y'all. About to get busy. So when I'm heading down the street, make sure you get on up out the way. Get on up. Get on up out the way. I said, move your big old fat ass out my way, bitch. Cause I'm coming through. And I'm moving. And I'm grooving. And I'm jamming to the tunes of get on up. Get on up out the way. Get on up out the way. Move your big old fat ass out my way, bitch. Cause I'm coming through. And I'm moving. And I'm grooving, and I'm jamming to the tunes of getting jiggy with it. Get jiggy with it. Get your Mr. Wiggles on. I do the wiggle, man. Yeah. Got to get this coffee ready, guys. See if I got enough ground coffee. Okay, good God in heaven. Thank you for that, Lord. Thank God for that. Make sure you got plenty of coffee ready, guys, because we're in it to win it tonight. Ooh, there's a little button over here. Show scenes panel. Ooh, what is that all about? That's weird. New scene, demo scene 1, Demo scene 2, show on stage. Okay, very cool. Very cool. Show on stage. They got little demo scenes you can click through. It's in its beta version. Wow. StreamYard getting advanced. They're starting to work shit out. They make a lot of money. I know. To be sure. StreamYard's a big money maker. How else could they offer free streaming services to individuals like me who can't necessarily afford to pay for all the extra bells and whistles? Looks like the magpies have built a new nest right outside my window. That's interesting. I'm at the downtown apartment today, guys. It is Sunday in the temple, and we're looking at spiritual stepping stones for spiritual success. This is another entry in the 100-day challenge, Way of the Psyonic Agent. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you got your hot beverage, hot or cool beverage, whichever you like. Kick your feet back and get ready to enjoy the show, man. Because we're doing it once again, like Finnegan. Because if you've got a yin to expand your kin, then let's get zen. Yeah, from behind the bamboo firewall, deep within the central kingdom of the celestial dragon, your friend and well-wisher, Grand Wizard of the Esoteric Order of Dagon, Frank Monday, coming at you with another one. It is, what is it today? April 6th? It's a Sunday. I still got my calendar on March, man. It shows you I haven't been here all week. I stay at the, I've been staying in a hotel during the week. My dorm is still under construction, man. I don't think they're ever going to be able to fix all those pipes. So if it's the 6th today, then this is the 8th week in the semester. And good stuff coming up next week and the week after. Delightful. We're moving into Taurus soon. We're in Aries now, right? Be a couple of weeks before we start moving into Taurus. That'll be all right. For all you Taurian folk out there, happy birthday to all my Aries friends. If you were born with the sun in Aries, happy birthday to you. It's your birthday, baby. Yes, it's true. Birthday, baby. Don't be blue. Laugh and sing and play all day. You can even be downright gay on your birthday, baby. Do-do-do. Birthday, baby. I love you. Act like a monkey and show your ass. Let them know you ain't got no class on your birthday, baby. Do-do-do. Birthday, baby. Do-do-do. All right, birthday babies. Another trip around the old, I don't know, the cycles. I guess you can't say it's a trip around the sun when you're on a sea level, expansive prime material plane, right? Geocentric. The sun's going around us, or it's going above us. I don't know what's going on, man. Hard to figure out with all the fake news and pseudoscience they got out there these days. All right, how many of you bought into the moon landing? Probably not a lot. But that's enough to get you canceled. If you question Buzz Armstrong, he gonna punch you in the mouth. All right, he knows what's up. He gonna punch you, leave a little indentation on your nose with his Freemasonic ring. You can get a 33 punched into your forehead. Yeah, that's what's gonna happen to y'all, good-looking, sexy people. Today we're gonna be looking at some interesting stuff, man. Truly interesting. But before we do that, let me take you through a little hypnotic induction. I think you're gonna enjoy this. This is to help us aid and support you on the 100-day challenge. There it is there, 100-day challenge. Psyonic agents. Y'all getting jiggy with it, getting wiggy with it. Yeah, shake it. All right, so Wayfarer, go ahead and settle in. If you're seeking tranquility today, I'd like to embark on a journey of self-discovery. I invite you to find a comfortable position, either seated, lying down. You could even be in standing meditation if you like. You might want to close your eyes and allow your body to settle into the stillness. Take a deep breath in through your nose, filling your lungs completely, and then exhale slowly through your mouth, releasing any tension you may be holding. Oh, doesn't that feel nice? Let's do it again. Inhale deeply, drawing the energy in from the universe, down from the Ein Sof, into the palace of the mind. Feel it in your body, expanding in your chest. Hold this breath for a moment, and now exhale fully, letting go of any distractions, any vexations, any worry, any thoughts that do not serve you right now. Let's do that again. Let's take another deep breath together. Inhale, hold for a moment, and exhale gently. Continue rhythmic, natural breathing. As you breathe in, you might imagine you're drawing in pure, radiant light from above, filling your being with energy and enthusiasm. And as you exhale, you can visualize any stress or discomfort leaving your body and dissolving into the aether. Go ahead and do that for a few times. Natural, rhythmic breathing. Continue for as long as you like. Now I'd like you to bring your awareness to the top of your head where that divine shaft of light is entering in. Feel the gentle weight of your hair against your scalp, the sensation of the air surrounding you. You can notice any tension that might be present and acknowledge it without judgment. As you breathe in, imagine that warm, golden, scintillating white light enveloping your head, soothing any tightness. Might want to touch the brow of the head and invoke Ato. Feel this light washing over you, relaxing you, empowering the celestial Dantian, a center of energy. The first swirlings, Keter, Okma, and Bina on the tree of life. Relaxing the brow, softening your eyes. Pull this shaft of light down, along the throat, into the neck and shoulders, passing through Daath, letting go of any burdens you carry. Inhale and exhale as you should, allowing your shoulders to drop and releasing the weight of the day. Pulling this energy down into the heart center, down the arms and elbows and wrists, into the fingertips, feeling the warmth and relaxation spreading. Arms becoming heavy and relaxed, resting peacefully. Bring your awareness to your chest and heart center. You might tap the heart center and invoke Adonai. Feel the rise and fall of your breath. Natural, rhythmic breathing. With each inhale, feel your heart center with love and light, the Christ consciousness awakening, that terrestrial Dantian of energy. With each exhale, release any fear or discomfort, allowing your heart to expand with warmth, embracing all that you are, expanding in all directions and dimensions, benefiting not only you, but all around you. Continue bringing your attention down into your abdomen. Notice any sensations, perhaps a gentle flutter or tightness. Breathe into the lower dantian, the infernal dantian, inhaling deeply, filling your belly with light, touching the lower dantian, invoking Malku, letting go of any tension, imagining your breath as a wave, washing over your body, bringing comfort and ease. All that golden light flowing down into your hips, thighs, knees. Feel the support of the ground beneath you, anchoring you in this moment. Let go of any fatigue or discomfort, allowing your legs to feel heavy and relaxed, as if you are melting down into your seat. Bring your awareness to your calves, ankles, and feet, and feel the connection to the ground. Imagine roots extending all the way down into the earth, spiraling vortices of light, grounding you in stability and strength. With each breath, feel the energy of the earth rising through these roots and nourishing you, filling you with vitality. And all that energy goes all the way back up. You might want to extend your arms left and right. Vegubra, Vegula. Feeling the tree of life expanding within you. Put your hands together in supplication. Slowly bringing your awareness back to your breath. Leolam Aman. Natural, rhythmic, gentle breathing. Notice your inhalations and exhalations. With each breath, feel a sense of peace enveloping you, grounding you in the present moment. When you are ready, you want to gently begin to wiggle your fingers and toes, bringing movement back into your body. Take your time with this, aspirants. When you feel ready, slowly, gently, open your eyes. Welcome back, Wayfarer. Carry this sense of body awareness and the Kabbalistic cross, the tranquility of the God force being with you, within you, and around you. As you move throughout your day, remember, you can return to this space of relaxation and connect to your body whenever you need to. I really appreciate you sharing this moment, to take time to meditate with me and embrace the energy of the divine. Looks like we have some visitors out in Happy Land. Good to see. Good looking out. Appreciate y'all good looking sexy people. Let's see who's out there so I can give a proper shout out. We've got the basic bodies. The busybody. Okay, good to see you, busybody. Hope you are doing well. They say good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, wherever you are, whoever you are, and whenever you may be receiving this transmission. We've got TMH in the ideas room. Good to see you, TMH. I hope you are doing well. Welcome and salutations. Greetings and salutations to you and yours. We've been going through the basic relaxation meditation this morning, and I'm your Grand Wizard, of course. I remind you guys to hit the like button and join up on the 100-day challenge. You might want to check out the syllabus over at buymeacoffee.com. You can definitely find it there. It's good magic. Getting into a little more in-depth mastering the mind with the silver key today. So the contents of the course for the Psyonic agent is, of course, meditation, self-hypnosis, singular inductions, do some good journaling, your magic wish list, and then today we'll be debriefing and discussing any ideas. Yesterday we started off as defining the thought process and just having a little look at it, you know, considering what thoughts are. Thoughts are the mental processes that occur in our minds, an interplay of perceptions, emotions, and ideas. Yeah. So the activities for yesterday were to think about how often do you notice your thoughts? Are those thoughts mostly positive, negative, or neutral? I encourage you to check that video out if you haven't seen it yet. That was the transmission from yesterday, and workshopping to help you observe and understand those thought patterns, various aspects of them. We're going to have a look at something a little new to me today, and I want to preface this by saying that I discovered the clip-off or the cliphotic tree that they call the tree of death. It's the opposite of the tree of life. I discovered it by accident when I first started practicing Hermetic sciences again about, let me see if I can switch mics real quick, guys. I don't think the audio is great on this one.
All right. Testing. 1, 2, 3. This might be a little better. Yeah, so when I first started practicing Hermetic sciences again for the first time in a long time, since I was, like early 20s, I wanted to go up the tree of life. And so I started working from the sphere of Malkut, the prime material plane, the waking world. And I was trying to bridge back into the gateway there, Yesod at the foundation, the astral realm, the dreaming mind, and all of that. And I was stopped by the guardian at the threshold, and he sent me back down into the Klipoth. And it said, do not pass go, do not go directly to God, first go back into hell. And so I had to go down the 7 spheres of the Klipoth before I could start to climb back up into Yesod from Malkuth. So I had to take a huge deviation, which I found very shocking. I didn't know that. And when I told Poke Runyon that, he said, yeah, that's how it works. He says it's not lying. I guess I'm telling secrets right now, and I should keep my mouth shut. But anyway, let's go ahead and with no further ado, let's get into the video, guys. We got a nice little video here, and I'm gonna share it with you. Oops, hold on a sec. No. Okay, that's not working. Add to stage, is that right? Okay, yeah, there we go. All right, so it starts off with a little quote. It says, one does not become enlightened, but imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Ooh, let's find out what that's all about.
Hello, and welcome once again to Esoteric Guardian. Today, we're stepping into a space rarely discussed openly, a realm that exists not in opposition to light, but as its necessary mirror. We're going to explore what is known as the Tree of Death, the shadowy counterpart of the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. Often referred to as the Clifothic Tree, this diagram outlines the distorted reflections of divine emanations, where the Tree of Life reveals balance, harmony, and connection to the divine. The Tree of Death presents us with imbalance, rupture, and descent into spiritual chaos.
So before we go too much further, I'll make a little bit of commentary along the way to try to discuss the information we're receiving. Remember that all of these descriptions, like according to Taoism, like the subtle truth can't be directly articulated through human speech, because that's at the level of false dichotomies and the conceptualizations of the human mind. And so it's one way for us to follow these stepping stones, as it were, to spiritual success. But you have to remember too that the menu is not the meal and the map is not the terrain. So it's not those things. Like, it may appear as such, or it seems to be, but to say that it is such and such is exactly what it is not. So that's the riddle that we deal with, is that these linguistic, semantic descriptions of things are not accurate. They're not entirely accurate, right? You can say what it's not, but you really can't say what it is. So with that as a caveat, we'll go ahead and continue.
But this darkness isn't senseless. It has meaning, structure, and even purpose. What is the true nature of these forces? Where did they come from? Who uses them, and why? And most importantly, what happens when someone dares to descend through this forbidden path?
That's a good question. And if you've dared to descend through this forbidden path, then you know. If you follow the path of magic and you seek to unify with God, and harmonize with spiritual energy, then you'll realize. I don't know if it works the same way for everyone, but maybe it occurs at older stages for a magician. But my first time up the Tree of Life, I was able to go as a young man. I was able to go from Malkuth, Yesod, Tifereth, and then straight into the supernals, right into the supernal triad. And so I was able to achieve this union with the Godhead fairly quickly. I mean, just within a few years, and like having realizations of instantaneous awareness and being within the celestial palace, it really wasn't as hard. But as I got a little older and I deviated away from the path of my roots, from my Hebrew traditions, and I started to practice esoteric Taoism for like 30 years. And then I went back in and I reinitiated myself into the Hermetic sciences. Again, I tried to go from Malkuth to Yesod, and I wasn't able to. I had to take a deep, dark trip through the clip oaths. And so we'll see a little bit about what that's like.
Stay with me, and as always, listen carefully, because today we unveil what lies beneath the Tree of Life. To understand the Tree of Death, we must first revisit one of the most important mystical events in the entire Kabbalistic tradition, the breaking of the vessels, Shvirat HaKelim. This concept originates from the teachings of Rabbi Isaac Luria, a 16th century mystic who profoundly reshaped Jewish esotericism. According to his cosmology, before the universe as we know it existed, there was only the infinite divine presence, Ein Sof, about.
All right, yeah, doing good. We got some ideas out here in the ideas room. Lady Paranorma says, always work from the root. Indeed, it is important to work from the ground up, right? That's why every 100-day challenge I build up over the course of 100 days. I build up the four Kabbalistic elements and work all the way back up through earth, air, water, and fire. So earth at the base, right, encompasses the fourth quarter, the 1/4 part of the lower body, then air above that, the next fourth quarter of the human body, and then water above that, right, and then fire in the mind. So if you start with that Yud, right, if you know the four-letter name of God, the Tetragrammaton, we have the Yod, He, Vav, He, and that formulates the human body in the image of the Jehovah, some call the Demogorgon, right, of the Old Testament, who brought the human form into manifestation. But yeah, I mean, it's an ongoing process. You can't say that it occurred at this or that given time, right, in ancient history. But it happens every morning when you wake up and you're reinvigorated and you return from the worlds beyond. You are brought back into manifestation once again, and you should jump up and do all of your ritual practices and get ready to face the world. As Marcus Aurelius said, we're going to face lots of different kinds of folks, and we have to be prepared. So yeah, my day is going well. I've only been up for going on 3 hours now. You know me, I get up at the crack of dawn, 4 a.m., 5 a.m. So I've been up. I went out and I did some kung fu in the yard this morning, which was good fun, right? And I came back in here, made myself a cup of the black magic, and got ready to go through some things with you guys, man. All the good-looking, sexy people out in Happy Land. Welcome once again. Make sure you hit the like button, everyone, and leave comments on the videos, man. That helps out a lot. I really appreciate that when you do that, guys. Huge gratitude. Look at this beautiful AI-generated image of, looks like probably Moses or someone, opening the scrolls. And his head surrounded with the light of the divine. Very good stuff.
Boundless light that filled all things. When the divine decided to create the worlds, Shvirat Hakelim. This concept originates from the teachings of Rabbi Isaac Luria, a 16th century mystic who profoundly reshaped Jewish esotericism. According to his cosmology, before the universe as we know it existed, there was only the infinite divine presence, Ein Sof, a boundless light that filled all things. When the divine decided to create the world, it contracted itself in a process called Tzimtzum, withdrawing a portion of its own infinite presence to create an empty space where creation could occur. Into this void, divine light flowed once again, entering 10 vessels, 10 metaphysical structures meant to contain and distribute that light. These were the original Sephirot, the foundations of creation. But something went wrong. The light was too intense. The lower vessels, especially the ones tied to the more fragmented, individual aspects of existence, were unable to contain it. They shattered, spilling the divine light into chaos.
Wow, that's interesting to contemplate what he said there. That maybe the reason I got cast back into the clip oath is because my mind and body were also unable to contain that divine light when I called it down into me, and so my vessel was shattered, and I had to go down into the darkness before I could come back up into the light again. So good magic, huh? Yeah, you had dinner? Good. I hope you had something delightful, something wonderful and refreshing. It's always a pleasure to have a good meal. Sometimes not all meals are good, but you can either eat to live or live to eat, right? And food is an important part of the daily process. We got to get in there and get in it to win it. Grind down some good grub. Nothing wrong with that. Let's see what they got. Let's see what they got for us in this video today.
This cosmic rupture, the Shvira, produced fragments of divinity scattered and trapped in unstable, broken shells. These shells are what we call the Qliphoth. Now, this is important. The Qliphoth, these husks or shells, are not embodiments of absolute evil. They are not enemies of God in a dualistic sense. In Lurianic Kabbalah, they are necessary byproducts of the creative process. They represent the areas where light became disconnected from its source, where divine energy was displaced and imbalanced, not annihilated. The evil they represent is not demonic in a Hollywood sense. It is simply imbalance, an excess of judgment, a distortion of wisdom, an overflow of desire. Where the Sephirot channel divine energy harmoniously, the Qliphoth twist it, corrupt it, or consume it for themselves.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about that the Qliphotic sphere, whenever one becomes judgmental or engages in opining, too much opinionated assertion of one's ideas, whenever you become too lustful or too involved in the world, then you can see that those Qliphotic shells are draining you, right? So that's why there's 7 of them, and we have the seven cardinal sins or original sins like gluttony and lust and all of these things, excessive anger, right, rage, and we can easily see how that energy drains off. And of course, it's not an evil thing; it's just a process. It'll the individual human will lose that divine energy, that spark. It will bleed out of them and get sucked by the diamoniacal creatures down into the root, where it will eventually again travel back up, as long as it's not like really, really severe. If it's extremely severe, then it becomes totally disintegrated. A human soul can actually be totally disintegrated by evil. It just depends on how far they wander off the path. But for the average individual that doesn't engage in, mass murder and mass atrocities, there's very little chance that they'll wander into absolute darkness forever, right? So that's the message that the Christ brought forward, that there is salvation. Let's find out a little more about it.
But they still carry sparks of that original light. They're not empty, they're haunted. This is where another essential Lurianic concept emerges: Tikkun Olam, or the restoration of the world. It is said that the purpose of human existence is to find and redeem the fallen sparks hidden within these broken shells. Through ethical action, spiritual awareness, and inner transformation, we help return the scattered light back to its source.
It's interesting to think, too, that in Chinese Taoism, we have a similar type thing. Like there are seven Po spirit, or Hunan Po. So there are 7 yin spirits that dwell within the human, and they sink down and in. And so they're clipotic, and they need to be redeemed through salvation by the other spirits of the body. So there are many parallels between the Chinese system and the Hebrew system. And I'm suspicious, in fact, that the Chinese system actually predates the Hebrew system on many levels, and that a lot of that interpretation, though it comes through different people, again, is derived from the same source. And that's why we have these numerological equivalents. And we'll see that each people's of the 5 root races developed this knowledge in their own way.
Every act of healing, of compassion, of self-awareness is a way of repairing the cosmos. In this light, the tree of death is not merely a descent into horror. It is a necessary confrontation with what has been forgotten, corrupted, or buried. Evil, in this framework, is not an external force to be destroyed, but a fragmented light to be reintegrated. So when mystics speak of the Qliphoth, they are not always speaking of demons or forces of doom. They are speaking of exiled light, of divine energy trapped in places where the structure failed. And for those brave enough to face it, the journey through the tree of death becomes not a damnation, but a path of redemption.
Yeah, there's some really beautiful imagery in here. Whoever did this video, I think he said it was Esoteric Guardian. We'll have to look back again at the beginning. But one thing I was going to mention is that when you go from Malkuth, and I realized that that Yesod is a gateway, right? So Yesod can take you onward and upward. It can take you into Netzach or Hod, or straight up into Tifereth. But it's also the gateway into Da'ath, and it's also the gateway into the Qliphoth. So within it, we've got the astral and etheric, right? The lower portion of Yesod is within the etheric, where there is a direct gateway into the realm of the Qliphoth. And so it's a very magical thing to orient oneself and your spiritual practice around rising up out of Yesod and into the higher heavenly kingdoms, right? So we have Yesod and Malkuth, and they're within the infernal Dantian, right? They're within the root of the Kundalini, and that's the awakening point for many. And it parallels between going in and out of Dreamland, because it's also the gate of dreaming, right? So a lot of our paranormal experiences, they may be Qliphothic experiences, right? We see ghosts or demons, and luminous beings appear within this realm, and it's not necessarily that they're evil, although some of them clearly are. But the more evil ones would be multidimensional. They wouldn't be within the realm of spiritual cultivation. But sometimes there are trickster type spirits and different types of things you can encounter, synchronicities and paranormal encounters, and they're within this. You may be in Yesod and viewing them, but they might be Qliphothic. But yeah, that's at at a lower level, at a very base initiate level. And sometimes people, they need and want to see these things first and foremost so that they can engage in spiritual cultivation. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that either. That's why the path of the magician starts with ceremonial magic and magical practices and breathing exercises and meditation, so that you can open your spiritual eyes, as it were.
If the tree of life is the divine architecture of creation, the tree of death is its distorted echo, a negative reflection, a structure composed not of harmony, but of imbalance.
And two, we can see that the way of heaven is the way of creation and abundance, and then the way of man is the way of death and destruction, right? We see all of this in the world so preeminently that most leaders, they engage in this behavior that creates chaos and disorder and destruction of resources and scarcity models, right, and enslavement. And so they're engaged in feeding the shells, as it were, the cliffodic energy. And the natural realm doesn't do that. It does exactly the opposite. Spring now for the northern hemisphere, or the inner parts of the prime material plane and the inner circles. And you can see that every year, without fail, nature continues to produce in great abundance. And in recent times, like I think around the year 2019 was one of the greatest, most prolific years of production in the prime material plane. And it's just going to go up from there. But they sought to cancel all that out. The dark lords of our prime material plane, they sought to cancel all that out because there was such abundant production of resources, fresh water flowing, crops growing, fruits just bursting on the trees, and there was so much of everything, factory production, human activity, and there was so much just abundant energy that they realized that they did a tally, a bit of a course correction accounting, because they're bean counters, and they're like, oh my God, it's overflowing. There's just so much energy coming out of the cosmos that if people become aware of this, the hundreds and thousands of cows and pigs and chickens and eggs, they'll realize that, they basically can have everything for free every year, and then we're not going to be able to enslave them and make all this money. So they that's why they initiated that great darkness, so that they could cancel out a lot of that great abundance and continue on their path of their scarcity model to make people, starve and be hungry and seek leadership. Otherwise, what do you need any of that for when the earth becomes a Garden of Eden like it does every year? It's hard to control people when they have such great abundance.
In the mystical teachings of the Qlipoth, each Qlifa, or shell, corresponds to a sephira on the tree of life. But instead of manifesting divine attributes, these spheres express their corruption, their collapse, or their extreme. Where Chesed radiates unconditional love, its shadow becomes coercion, false mercy, domination. Where Hod reflects intellectual glory, its inverse becomes deception and manipulation. And so on, until the entire tree is mirrored in darkness.
Yeah, you can see that each of the spheres on the tree of life has its shadow sphere in the Qlipoth, right? And so when you're going up and you're utilizing the energies of any one of these given spheres within your magic, then you have to be wary of its darker shadow, right? And its opposite extreme. And so you could express it as being on the same growth of the tree upward, but it's not. We visualize it as a downward expression below the tree of life, right? And then there's another tree going up above the tree of life that the human being can contemplate, and there's the angelic tree, and then there's the tree of powers, and then there's another tree going up, and so you have to study a little deeper in order to be able to get a grasp. But this is a jumping off point, right?
Let's examine the 10 primary Qlipoth, each one a distorted lens of spiritual energy associated with archetypal demons, destructive urges, and psychic dysfunctions. And remember, these are not evil in the simplistic sense. They are imbalanced expressions of archetypes, forces that must be confronted, understood, and ultimately reintegrated. At the very top of the Tree of Death, we find Thaumiel, the dark mirror of Kata, the crown. Where Keta is unity, pure divine will, the source of all that is, Thaumiel is division itself. This is not ordinary conflict. It is metaphysical schism, an opposition so vast it tears through the fabric of creation. Thaumiel is the realm of the twin contenders, two opposing gods locked in eternal struggle. Their war is not one of victory or defeat, but of perpetual imbalance. This Cleaver represents what happens when the one splits into many without harmony, when divinity becomes fractured and duality becomes tyranny. In Kabbalistic demonology, Thaumiel is often ruled by Satan and Moloch, one embodying absolute rebellion, the other absolute domination. Together, they illustrate the ultimate paradox, the destructive power of unrestrained freedom, clashing with the violence of total control. On the spiritual level, this is where the soul experiences inner contradiction, the split between its higher nature and its shadow, the battlefield between conscience and compulsion. It is the crown of chaos, the throne of divided gods within the human psyche. To confront Thaumiel is to confront the urge to dominate or to destroy, the illusion that fragmentation is strength, and to see at last that no external enemy is as powerful as the war we carry inside.
Yeah, that's an interesting little commentary there. Definitely good magic to contemplate. It's interesting to me that he started at the top of the tree of the Clipos, so he's following the lightning strike down the tree. For initiates, it's more appropriate to begin at the bottom and go up. So we're contemplating really big, powerful explosion of energy there at the top, and yeah, maybe you go down because if the top of that tree is at the bottom of the tree of life, then and it's not necessarily correct to think of it in those terms, like those spatial terms, because it's beyond spatial description, but it's an interesting way to go about it.
Beneath Thaumiel, we descend into Gargiel, the Cleaver that reflects Chokhmah, the Sephira of divine wisdom and creative impulse. But where Chokhmah radiates fluid intelligence and inspired insight, Gargiel becomes its perversion. Cold intellect, stripped of heart, obsessed with itself. This is the realm of sterile knowledge, ideas disconnected from life, concepts that spiral endlessly into abstraction, collapsing under their own weight. Here, the mind devours itself. It becomes a labyrinth, not of enlightenment, but of arrogance.
There is an interesting class of demons at this level, according to ancient Chinese Taoism. And there actually is, I've done some work with this, and I've been able to pinpoint that there are certain groups of demonic beings that live within this realm, within the prime material plane. And they're mostly the ones that are up to all of the madness that we see in the world. They call them the Dark Lords in Chinese magic. And they have to be satiated to some extent when you're following the pathways of Taoist magic. And you have to be very wary of them. Right now, they're very active because it's the Day of the Dead, and they want to be appeased. And so all throughout China, you can see people setting out all kinds of fruit and vegetables and meats on altars and burning spirit money and engage in obsequies to the dead, because these rulers of the realm of the dead, they're very quite powerful, and they can affect human life, and they can affect your family's fortune and your karma and stuff like that. So when you've had older people that pass into those realms, here's an interesting aspect. It's fascinating that you should ask this, that you should take some pics. It's deemed extremely like impolite, and they're very superstitious about it. So if you if you take pictures and stuff like that, like, you have to be extremely careful, because the Dark Lords will attack you, and there's lots of curses associated with that. And so if you engage in trying to document these processes like openly, I would be extremely aware. I don't personally do it because I follow some of the prohibitions in Tao. There are certain rituals that we can easily like document and share with the world, but like these inner practices of the realm of the dead, they take it very serious, and they're not, it's not like a celebration for them. It's like a kind of drudgery and like work that they have to do, and they say to be very careful of it. Like, they won't bring small children to these ceremonies, and even men for the most part are not welcome unless you're like a priest of Tao and you know how to protect yourself. But it's mostly women that engage in these activities, and so it's something to, because I've been at a few of them, and I've said, hey, I got caught. I was wanting to take some pictures, and my wife, she's like, don't fucking do that. She's like, you could destroy our entire family. She's like, you got to be really careful about that kind of thing. And so, it's interesting, right? But anyway, I was going to tell you guys about the class of demons that's associated with Gargael. But again, this is inner knowledge, and it's stuff that we can save for another day. And as you progress in your training, you could find out more about it, definitely.
Associated with Beelzebub, the Lord of the Flies, is the Throne of Decay, masked as brilliance. The pride of the scholar who has forgotten the soul. The clever...
Yeah, classic stuff right here. I'm not going to mention any more, but this guy's letting a lot of the cats out of the bag, so to speak. So yeah, this is good information, guys. Pay attention.
The manipulator who builds systems not to liberate, but to control. Psychologically, it is the shadow of intelligence, the belief that knowing is enough, that the world can be measured, dissected, and controlled through thought alone. But thought without spirit becomes a cage, one lined with mirrors. To face Gargael is to confront our intellectual pride, our false sense of mastery. It is to realize that wisdom without love is not wisdom at all, but a beautiful corpse.
Yeah. Here's the thing too, Lady Paranorma, Frau Schadenfreude. I have taken some pictures in the past, and like I thought to make videos of it and document some of it, but then I thought better of it. And the reason I mentioned that is, the other thing too is they say that it's a little bit morbid, and unless you're like directly engaged in mourning at that time, and like you're charged with the responsibility of doing those rituals, then you shouldn't even look at the accoutrements of it. Like, you shouldn't go into the shops that sell the items. You shouldn't look at pictures of it. You shouldn't bring any of that death energy upon yourself if you're in a good place in life. Like, if you're deep in suffering and you feel a duty to do these types of what are they, funeral rites, obsequies is the word for them, but there are other words as well, engaging in the singing of dirges and the ringing of bells in cemeteries and stuff like that, like true necromantic practices, then you should just avoid it entirely, because you might again, if you're not really spiritually empowered, then you could really, really injure yourself with that type of behavior. But yeah, just a caveat, just a little warning there, so be wary of that.
The next descent leads us into Satariel, the shadow of Bina, understanding. Bina gives shape to divine thought. It is the structure of insight, the sacred vessel that transforms raw light into form. But Satariel does the opposite. It takes form and conceals its meaning. It builds prisons made of symbols, constructs so intricate that they lose their purpose entirely. Satariel is the domain of concealment, of false depth and artificial mystery. It is the mask worn over emptiness, the fog that mimics complexity to hide the lack of essence. It is associated with Lucifuge Rofokal, the light that refuses to shine, the force that hoards knowledge but never shares it. This is the cleaver of spiritual opacity, where the seeker believes they are approaching truth, but instead walks deeper into illusion. Everything is made to appear meaningful, yet nothing is. Within the psyche, Satariel manifests as the fear of exposure, the compulsion to hide, to obfuscate, to perform. It is the realm of facades, intellectual, spiritual, emotional, where meaning is replaced by posture and clarity is buried under layers of affectation. To walk through Satariel is to strip away the masks, to recognize how often we choose complexity not to discover truth, but to protect ourselves from it.
Yeah, that's worthy of a little bit of commentary there. I would say that, like, anytime the individual is filled with guile and tries not to be their most sincere self in the world, right? When they try to run subterfuge or deception on others, then they're inviting this energy to consume them and to corrupt them. And the more corruption occurs, always the closer you get to the realm of death, right? And so to avoid that type of corrupting energy, it's important to be sincere and do things from a sincere, Christ-centered consciousness, and don't do things for, just for money. I mean, obviously you have to feed your family and accumulate enough money to not be poor, but you can't overtly just try to chase wealth. And when you do, then this type of energy can consume you. And so it's something to be wary of.
We now descend to Gamchikoth, also known as Garg Shebla, the shadow of Chesed, the Sephira of divine loving kindness. While Chesed represents boundless generosity, the expansive grace of the divine, Gamchikoth is its distorted mirror, compassion that controls, giving that enslaves. This cleaver embodies perverse grace, kindness used as a tool of manipulation. It is the hidden agenda behind the gift, the act of care that comes with invisible strings attached. Associated with Astaroth, the refined tempter cloaked in beauty, this sphere represents influence through affection, domination, masked as devotion. Psychologically, Gamchikoth is the urge to control others emotionally through guilt, favors, or dependency. It's the parent who suffocates with love, the leader who protects in order to rule. To confront this, Cleaver is to question our hidden motives when we give. Are we serving or are we binding?
It's interesting to think too that, like, as human beings, and we travel, the ordinary realm of the human, and we're experiencing a human life, then we will be pulled into each of these mirrored states of the tree of life, right? And that we need to be wary of it whenever we see this tendency in ourself or others, that we need to be aware of it and then disperse it. That's why the banishing ritual of the pentagram is done so often in the neophyte stages, right? Many young practitioners, young magicians, they want to move quickly, right? They're like, well, you know what? Why is the banishing ritual the only thing that's taught? And because it takes so long for one to banish the darkness from one's soul and one's life in general, and banishings are always appropriate, to banish elementally and to banish planetary and then to banish at the level of the zodiac. And when you start pulling energy, every time you banish negative energy, you're replacing it with positive energy, which will naturally come in to fill that spot, right? Because as Ed has said, the universe or the cosmos abhors a vacuum. And so it always has to fill any vacuum. So you banish the negative and you pull in the positive. But when you start to do invoking rituals, then you don't want to invoke and put negative energy on top of your magical energy. So that's why you need to banish for a very long time. Of course, the higher rituals are there, but you'll when the work of the banishing rituals have been done, then those other rituals will present themselves to you. Like in my own practice, it took me probably 6 months to a year before the mind was clear enough after doing the LBRP that the effects started to be seen in Dreamland. And so I started dreaming of the practices and doing my rituals and dream work. Then I was able to easily get up in the early morning and bring back information from Dreamland, bring back Gnosis from the divine realm. But then at the same time, I was able to start to craft the rituals that are the more powerful ones that give you higher levels of magic. And so keep that in mind as a neophyte, as a beginner, that you got to put in your chops, and that way you can get to the higher levels. And with that said, yeah, everyone's got to put in their chops here at the Esoteric Order of Dagon with your friend and well-wisher Frank Monday. And one way to do that is be like Frater Sal Smith and visit me over at the buymeacoffee.com/Frank Monday. You too can achieve the level of Adeptus Exemptus. This is the 100-day challenge, Way of the Psyonic Agent, and we're working through some high-level practices here today. So good magic, welcome one and all. Wayfarer, Wanderer, Wizard, Warrior, and Wildcat alike, wherever you are, whoever you are, whenever you receive this transmission. We're broadcasting to you today from the Central Kingdom of the Celestial Dragon, Twilight Zone, Old Peking, deep behind the bamboo firewall. We're getting at it once again like Finnegan. So if you have a yen to expand your kin, then let's get zen. And with no further ado, guys, go ahead and hit that like button. Like and subscribe, all of that happy horse shit that makes YouTube's algobots bark like Pavlov's dog. The address, guys, is www.buymeacoffee.com/Frank Monday. And put a little something in the tip jar. That'll keep the lead in my pencil, the pep in my step, and the jelly in my donut. As the prophet of the Aeon once quipped, no new horror can be more terrible than the daily grind, right? It's all that drudgery, man. The vicissitudes, the falling away of the shells, right? The daily torture of the commonplace is what he said. And so, yeah, get in it to win it, guys. Break through the torture of the daily grind with Frank Monday here on FM radio. We're listening to a transmission on the Tree of Death, the Clipothic tree. Let's continue. The burning orbs. So we just passed through Keter, Okma, Bina, and Hesed. And he said Chokma and Chesed, but I think that CH is actually just an H in Hebrew. And so I've always heard it pronounced Keter, Hokmah, Bina, and Hesed. But I guess you could say it Chesed as well, because it is written CH in English. And now we're going to be going into the Gebura. So it says here that it's Golakhab. Let's find out about the burning ones. Shemama Farash, right? Let's get into it.
From false generosity, we descend into Golachab, the shadow of Gevura, the Sephira of strength, discipline, and divine judgment. But Golachab is not strength. It is rage. It is wrath unrestrained, fury without order or purpose. What once was sacred fire becomes a wildfire of destruction, burning indiscriminately. This is the domain of Asmodeus, the demon of lust and uncontrolled aggression, the raw force of unchecked desire that consumes everything.
It's funny the way he's describing this, because it's not, that uncontrolled lust, right? Like, so for the man, this is, when the erection is just burning hot, and then he just explodes with fury, right? Dispersing all magical energy to the four winds. So be careful of that. And women's orgasm, I believe, would occur more in Hesed. It's usually more of a gentle one. But if they have an explosive orgasm, then it could be more of a Gebura type experience, right? So be wary of this, guys. This is where that the Kundalini seeks to explode from the human body at the level of right after it's gone past that Tiferethic Christ conscious love of the mystic union. Right, it starts to oscillate at red and blue, the level of red and blue, and then if you explode before you cross the abyss, then you can't get the quintessence. So be wary of that. This
or purpose. What once was sacred fire becomes a wildfire of destruction, burning indiscriminately. This is the domain of Asmodeus, the demon of lust and uncontrolled aggression, the raw force of unchecked desire that consumes everything, even the one who carries it. On the inner level, Golochab is self-destruction born from unexpressed pain, suppressed anger, internalized shame, the compulsive need to ruin what we love out of fear or resentment. It is the fire of chaos, where judgment becomes punishment and power turns inward. To walk through Golochab is to face the flames of the soul and to learn that true power is not dominance, but restraint.
Yeah, I would give a little bit more commentary on that. Just the analogy, the imagery of like when you see 2 and 3-year-olds out in the sandbox, and one of the 2-year-olds has a toy, and they got to share it with another child. But instead of having the ability to be kind and share the toy, they want to break the toy rather than share it. And so it's like a 2-year-old breaking their own toys rather than sharing them with others. Kind of a sad thing, but yeah, it's what it is, right? And so as we move from Gebura, we'll be going into Tifereth. And so here it says Thargarion, the false sun, the dark sun, as it were, right? So we have Tifereth, the Christ consciousness, and its opposite. Let's find out about it.
At the center of the Tree of Life lies Tifereth, the Sephira of beauty, balance, and spiritual harmony. But its dark reflection is Thargarion, the false sun, whose light does not illuminate, but blinds. This Clefa represents narcissism, vanity, and the illusion of spiritual achievement. It is the ego's throne, the place where one worships the self, mistaking admiration for enlightenment. It glows with the appearance of greatness, but beneath the surface lies hollowness. Associated with Belphegor, the demon of spiritual apathy and vanity, Thargarion reveals how easily pride can wear the mask of wisdom. Psychologically, it is the belief that one has already arrived, that one is above others, when in truth, one has only built a palace of mirrors. To confront Thargarion is to break that illusion, to reject hollow brilliance in favor of painful authenticity. Because often, what shines the brightest is also what hides the most.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that a bit of commentary here is appropriate as well. That in my understanding, the practices I've been through, I've called this area the Labyrinth of Mirrors, and it seems to reflect really dynamic energy through the laptop, the cell phone, right? So we have these technologically fashioned dark mirrors that the ancients used to use obsidian and crystal, and they had a more natural approach to creating this type of magic. But in our modern day, we have it very easy at our dispersal, and it's created a TikTok effect of people looking into the dark mirror like narcissists and seeing themselves reflected from all types of angles across the internet and social media. And they really get trapped within this dark heart, and their heart becomes a stone. And you can see it in a lot of folks that are out there and working, for the machine, that they easily give away their dignity and engage in untruthful behavior. And yeah, this is a dark one, man. It's something to be wary of, to be sure.
As we emerge from the anatomy of the Qliphoth and their psychological shadows, the question arises: who dares to walk this tree? Throughout history, various esoteric traditions have approached the Tree of Death not as a warning, but as a map, a system of initiation, a path of descent that leads, paradoxically, to transcendence. And while interpretations vary, all agree on one thing: this is not a path for the faint-hearted. In the Western esoteric tradition, perhaps no group left a greater mark on this subject than the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Though their primary focus was the Tree of Life, some of its members, most notably Aleister Crowley, ventured into the Tree of Death, seeing it as a necessary counterpart. In this context, the Qliphoth are not demons to be banished, but forces to be understood and integrated.
I would say that it's not necessary for everyone to walk the path of the Qliphoth, though. Like, if an ordinary practitioner who starts from a relatively happy life and stuff like this, they needn't get pulled into this, and they needn't even walk that path. Master Ni Huaqing of the Universal Society of the Integral Way, he once told me, because I told him I had a tendency to want to practice necromantic magic, and I wanted to learn more about Taoist wizardry. And he said that it's a dangerous path and most shouldn't follow it. He said that 90% of your average individuals can climb the Tree of Life without ever having to look into the darkness, and that very little of darkness would come into their life as a result. He said, if you do choose to follow that path, that he himself could not teach me it, but that I would be able to discover it on my own. But he said to be careful. He said, it's not necessary. You don't have to do it. And so I would say for average individuals, you don't need to research this or look into it very deeply. And that's all I'll say for that.
Each sphere becomes a trial, a confrontation with a fragment of the shadow self. Through ritual, meditation, and controlled invocation, the initiate descends into the darkness, not to be consumed by it, but to retrieve the light that was buried there. Kenneth Grant, successor to Crowley's magical lineage, would push this idea further into territory bordering the alien and the surreal. In his Typhonian tradition, the Qliphoth were reimagined not only as internal forces, but as gateways to other dimensions. He described them as portals to realities beyond comprehension, inhabited by entities that defy conventional metaphysics, forces eerily similar to the cosmic horrors imagined by Lovecraft. For Grant, these weren't just psychological archetypes, but extraterrestrial intelligences, reachable through ritual, trance, and dream. In this view, the Tree of Death is a cosmic map, and the magician an interdimensional navigator. In Luciferian currents, the Qliphoth are seen as flames of inner rebellion. Each sphere contains power that has been exiled from the divine order.
So a couple of notes there. Yeah, number one, Lovecraft's material all points at this. And you can see from him, Edgar Allan Poe, and many of the other greats who wrote along this vein, they get completely pulled into this sphere at a very early age, right? So Edgar Allan Poe, dead at 46 or 47. Lovecraft, 46, 47. Right when I got pulled into the Qliphoth was exactly the same time. I was 47 years old, and I almost died, right? And so this is a recurring theme that there aren't that many who go down the path of the Qliphoth and make it back to tell the tale. So you're now speaking to one of those rare dreamers who's walked beyond the veil and has returned to bring back the good message. And if you avoid it entirely, you won't get pulled into that trap in the midlife crisis, as it were, or that middle-aged experience. You can avoid it entirely. So for the ordinary path of the ordinary individual, I would say just avoid it at all costs, right? Avoid all darkness, because there's no reason to go there if you don't have to. And even those who have gone there and been shattered and try to bring back some information or light for wayfarers of all times, it's very rare that they're able to do this. And because it's of its essential nature, again, there really doesn't need to be that much information brought forward about it for the average individual again, so just some caveats, something to be aware of.
A knowledge forbidden by religious orthodoxy. To descend through the Qliphoth is to reclaim that knowledge, to awaken the latent God within by confronting every taboo that has been buried by centuries of dogma. Here, the tree is a rite of personal liberation, where the adept reclaims their will from imposed morality.
Yeah, that's right. We do come back and climb back up out of the darkness and into the light. It's really beautiful imagery they chose to use for this. It's some of it's quite prescient, almost as if maybe the person who put the video has been there themselves. So I would say, yeah, for the ordinary individual that can just go about a regular practice, doesn't need to go in that direction. But for those who they have that inner flame of rebellion and they have to break away from dogma, the doctrine and the dogma, and find their own path, then they're definitely going to go down this path and can benefit from it. But again, it can also destroy them. So it's important to be aware of that.
Theistic Satanism, on the other hand, treats the Qliphoth not as symbols, but as literal realms, and their rulers as real, sentient beings. In this worldview, each Qlipha is a gateway to communion with a particular demon, and the tree itself a sacred map of infernal initiation. Far from being adversaries, the demonic entities are seen as teachers and allies, guiding the practitioner through trials meant to burn away weakness and reveal the true self beneath. Power here is not metaphorical, it is the goal. Meanwhile, in chaos magic, the Tree of Death is stripped of dogma altogether. Instead of subscribing to any one belief system, chaos magicians treat the Qliphoth as psychological tools.
I'd like to point out that I think here it's important to realize that, the cognitive dissonance can be just dispersed with, and you can hold both to be true at the same time. That on the one hand, with the chaos magic system, it can be utilized from an understanding of these being psychological forces and entities within the mind, but the kingdom of God is within, right? So these things are internal, they're within you. But at the same time, there are actual entities that dwell within each of these spheres. Like there's supreme leaders, and then there's entire legions of beings. And as you go in and tap into one of these given energy sources, whether it be down the Tree of Life and into the Qliphoth, or up the Tree of Life and up into the realm of the supernal triad, that it's both. They're within and without, as above, so below. And you will contact, you'll come into contact with elder gods, the old ones, titans, and all the various manifestations within the pantheons. Those things were described because they're both, that it's true within and without. And that's why you get the lurker at the threshold and the shambler from the stars.
Energetic patterns to be activated, challenged, or transformed. Through the use of sigils, trance states, and personal myth-making, each practitioner builds their own version of the tree, one not bound by Kabbalistic structure, but by psychological resonance. The goal is pragmatic, transformation, however it manifests. In all these traditions, a recurring theme emerges, the concept of the left-hand path. This is not merely a moral inversion, it is a philosophical stance. Unlike the right-hand path, which seeks union with a divine source through obedience, discipline, and transcendence, the left-hand path seeks individuation through confrontation. It embraces the forbidden, the hidden, the shadowed. It walks backward through the tree, not from Malkuth to Kita, but from Kita to the void, from the divine to the abyss, and ultimately to the divine within. In this inverted journey, the adept does not seek to escape the self, but to master it completely. They reject imposed truths and create their own. They descend into the Qliphoth not to fall, but to rise by descending.
Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, so when I discussed my experience, I had the opportunity to sit with Bo Runyon of the OTA in his garden for like probably 2 or 3 hours, and I told him about my journey into the Clipoth, and I was how I had struggled with it. So I told him that as through my second initiation, the second great firing of the cauldron, as they call it in Tao, that I was attempting to go from Malkut into Yasad and then up along the lightning flash, Had and Netzach, and then oscillate to bring my energy up into Tifereth. And then I told him I had got pulled down into the darkness of the Clipoth, and he said, "Yeah." He told me quite a bit, and we had a pretty long discussion. And I told him all of the things that I saw along the path of coming back up out of the Clipoth. And later in the day, the high priestess of the OTA, she came and she asked Poke directly about me. She said, "What about this guy? What role will he play in tonight's ceremony?" Because I was there for Adonia, the initiation into Pastophorus of the OTA, and he said that he's self-initiated and he's walked all the paths by himself. And so yeah, I was pretty happy. He said that I had done the magic, done the good magic, and I did it again through you know uh, reflecting on the teachings and working through gathering the information from the books on one part, but then the natural, legitimate, real experience of having gone through it, and then been able to bring back the tale and tell it with absolute clarity, like each step along the path and how I went through it and stuff. So yeah, really good magic and good fun. And it's always fun to meet with great masters, and they can point out, they're like, oh, okay, so you've been through this, look where I wrote about it in my book here, and just they described all of it. And even though you hadn't read that book yet or knew about that information, you had the a mirrored experience, like nearly word for word. So it shows the legitimacy of the practice, that it's actually a real thing, and not a fantasy.
To walk this path is to challenge every sacred law, to face every inner demon, and to emerge from the underworld not purified, but empowered. This is why the Tree of Death continues to call to those who feel exiled by convention, because within its darkness lies the untold potential to become more than human, to become whole. But the descent into the Clipoth is not just a mystical map, nor a poetic metaphor. It is not a fashion, a dark aesthetic, or a spiritual game. It is a dangerous process, one that demands absolute honesty, emotional resilience, and a clear sense of purpose. The occult traditions that dare to traverse the Tree of Death understand this. The goal is never to live in the darkness, but to pass through it. Each cleaver represents a fracture in the soul, a distortion of divine light that mirrors the unresolved wounds within the psyche. To descend is to stand before your own chaos, not to glorify it, but to confront it. The practitioner who walks this path must face not only ancient archetypes or metaphysical forces, but their own hidden fears, their guilt, their rage, their illusions. And unlike the Tree of Life, which elevates gradually through harmony, the Clipoth pulls downward, with weight, with resistance, and with temptation. This is the path of confrontation, not of escape. The descent into the Clipoth is a symbolic death, a dismembering of the ego, a ritual burning of all that is false. And if the adept survives the descent, if they emerge from the depths intact, what awaits is not darkness, but transformation, the very essence of spiritual alchemy.
Yeah, it's interesting that he says if the adept survives, right? And the thing is, too, a lot don't. A lot get pulled down into that dark realm and then are just destroyed by it and have to go back beyond the veil to recharge, because it is a really powerful thing. And that's why in ordinary parlance, we would say, don't walk that path if you don't have to. But again, many of us that have been broken by the machine and then set out on our own to find the truth and to go beyond to seek the truth, then we walk that path, not necessarily willingly, but like with a sense of a pioneering spirit, like that the intuition and the gnosis will bring you to a reality that it hasn't been all spelled out so clearly in the doctrine and the dogma. But then once you go there and see it, then you come back and you realize, hey, all this doctrine and dogma is correct already anyway. I don't have to change a letter of it. I don't have to change a letter of the law, because those parameters, those safeguards are set there for average, ordinary individuals who just want to live in the world and try to progress, and break through their karma and the chains of the zodiac and these things without having to face great inner darkness. But yeah, some of us, the Poes, the Machins, the Lovecrafts, those people who walk beyond the shadows, they have to experience it directly.
Here, the inner fire is not used to destroy, but to forge. The descent becomes a crucible. Chaos becomes catalyst. Through this journey, the practitioner does not reject the shadow nor deny the light, but unites them, forging a self that is both grounded and luminous. The true goal is integration, to recover the divine spark trapped within the shells and to restore it to wholeness. But this path is not for everyone, and it should not be attempted lightly. Without proper preparation, without guidance, without a solid foundation, the Qliphoth can become a trap. Some lose themselves in the descent. Some mistake the power they encounter for wisdom. Some never return.
Yeah, it's no joke. Like I was telling you guys, man, look at how many people walked beyond the veil and checked out like way too early, So again, it's something to really be wary of. I had a friend who walked the path of the Qliphoth, and maybe my other friend too got consumed by it. That may be why this message is coming to me in such a timely fashion. And they went beyond the veil before maybe they were ready, and then they just didn't come back, something to be wary of. I did the initiation, in fact, for Frater Tomas, and I always cautioned and warned, hey, don't do this, don't do the other thing, be careful, tread the path slowly, let it awaken to you naturally. Like it's not something you need rush. It's not something that you can rush, because rushing things brings about destruction, and certain practices take a certain amount of time and need to be done slowly. And the unfolding, really, it just happens over the course of a lifetime, and you need to kind of let that, life's flower unfold throughout the entire experience, and don't be pulling at the strings of life and death. But another frater along the path, in fact, one who brought forward a huge bulk of the teaching to me, that was a big Thalemite and very, very deeply into Crowley, and walked way too close to the darkness. He checked out early as well. And it's like, hey, bro, you mess around and find out. So I would warn everyone, just to be wary and make sure you do your ritual practices in a timely fashion and build up enough chi to protect yourself if you do plan to try any of the magics that might bring about this kind of response. Yeah, just
That is why every serious tradition warns: respect what you summon, know what you seek, and above all, understand why you walk this path. Yet for those who endure it with discipline, with purpose, and with humility, the Tree of Death offers something rare: the chance to face the darkest parts of yourself and to emerge not purified, but whole, not obedient, but awakened, not broken, but reforged. In the end, the Tree of Death is not evil. It is misunderstood. It is feared because it demands truth. It does not offer comfort. It offers confrontation. And in a world obsessed with light, That confrontation has become taboo. But those who dare to look into the abyss often discover that what stares back is not a monster, but a mirror. To work with the Qliphoth is not to descend into madness. It is to retrieve the parts of the soul we were taught to exile. It is to understand that the divine does not only dwell in the heavens, but also in the depths. That chaos is not the enemy of order, but its counterpart, and that only by walking through the night can we truly understand what it means to awaken. The tree of death is a gate, and what lies beyond it depends entirely on who you are when you enter. If you want more content exploring esoteric and hidden knowledge, rituals, symbols, forbidden systems, and ancient mysteries, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. There's much more to uncover, and we've only just begun. Until next time, stay aware, stay curious, and stay grounded in purpose.
All right, there you have it. Esoteric Garden, everyone. Make sure you check it out. What a treat. What a delightful thing to experience and go through together here on FM radio with your host, Frank Monday, coming at you once again, like Finnegan. And if you have a yin to expand your kin, then let's get zen. Yeah, good stuff, man. That was good fun. I enjoyed that. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Make sure you check out, what was it called? Esoteric Garden? I keep wanting to say garden, but I think it's Guardian. Let me see here. Let me pull that right back up again, guys, to make sure I got that correct. What? It's not working. It's not working. Why isn't it working? Add to the stage. Okay, pause it. Pull it back. I think it said garden or guardian. Guardian, right? Let me check it. Okay, there it is. Yeah, so I've been subbed for a while. I like to listen to those videos from time to time. Yeah, so there it is there. Esoteric Guardian. Yeah, you guys can look it up here on the YouTubes and check it out. One of the hard things about absorbing those types of videos is that there's a lot of information packed into a short order, right? So I think that video is like 20 minutes long. And look, it took us an hour and a half to get through it. And the thing is, you know, that information, it's okay if you've already studied it through, you know, the documentation and you have some awareness and you want to do these practices, then you should definitely get involved. But you should start with, okay, good. Thank you for pulling up that address for us, Lady Paranormal. Really appreciate that. If you guys want to check it out, it's www.youtube.com/@esoteric guardian. And I guess that's kind of how you find all channels and their names, right? You can just put @ and then whatever. Yeah, so it's really good magic, guys. What more do I have to say about it? Not a lot. Just, you know, if you do choose to study along this path, the 100-day challenge way of psionic agents, then know that there are other pathways out there for you. You know, you can take the left-hand path, the right-hand path, or for the most magicians, I would say the center path is the best way. You know, you stay centered and harmonize, and you can pull up all of that dark energy from your past, you know, and transform it through the internal alchemical process. Because there are a lot of things. There is a lot of darkness sometimes in life, and not everybody gets a fair shake at it. And sometimes, you know, the demons come forth and exact their toll. And I'll tell you guys an interesting story about karmatic response, right? Or in Chinese Tao, we don't even say karma. We say that karma is an illusion of the mind sphere. But a lot of people, you know, they utilize that system because it brings about some psychological pacification for them. But what we have in the Chinese Tao is what's called the subtle arbiter of fortune. And so these arbiters, and there's more than one, but they're these arbiters, these heavenly arbiters, they will evoke that your own actions and behaviors throughout many lifetimes will evoke a response from the responsive nature of the cosmos. And so if you know, and this is maybe somehow karmatic law, but that there are actual entities and instruments that orchestrate these things at key times in one's life. And so if you evoke these certain kinds of response, like some people may say good fortune, bad fortune, but that's not really what it is. That's the way the human mind tries to distinguish it. But again, it's like the path working that you're doing. So as you go along this path, you'll evoke certain responses. And if, like, for example, if a very young child or something, they lose their life, and people say, oh, you know, they love to blame God and say, oh, this was, you know, why would God let a child die, or certain people starve or whatever. And according to Tao, if you're awake, if your eyes are open, then you can see the entities that are surrounding the person's aura and interacting with the being. And these unseen things to the average individual, they will not know, and they'll say, oh, you know, it's a tragedy or this, that, or the other thing. But no, it's an evoking of a response from the arbiter of justice. And these spiritual entities, sometimes they claim individuals, or they are involved in situations that people just beat their breast and have no idea what went down. But there are certain spiritual elements that these things are playing out because of evoked responses, that people invoked these magics, either even in the ancient past, and you may be suffering from some thing that happened that you're unaware of. And so that's the problem with it for the average individual. They just don't know why. They're like, why did this happen? Why did that happen? And as you go deeper into the pathways of psionics and magic, then you'll be able to see these things more easily and make determinations. And it's not even a magician or a wizard's position to judge or let people know what's really going on, because that's up to every individual to figure out what's going on in their life. Yeah, so Lady Paranormal wants to know if I've got a busy day. It's not so much that I've got a busy day, but I've kind of got a lot of elements in my environment right now that I have to deal with. Like I've got the laundry going, and then I've got folks eavesdropping. Yeah, so I'm not really in a place to open up the transmission on that level. But yeah, I wanted to get in and do a couple of hours of live streaming to chat with you guys. I would be willing to open up the chat if folks wanted to chime in and have a little bit of a debrief on the ideas. So I have put the link there, but again, I have to be careful, because there are elements here in my environment that I've got to deal with, and so I don't know if at any moment I might have to dip out and do other work. You know, there are many levels of work that need to be done. But I did want to talk a little bit more about the 100-day challenge that we're currently in, right? And so we're in it to win it. And I got to remove that from the studio real quick. But yeah. So as I was going through this course contents, I noticed that we've been doing some meditation and some hypnosis, right? I've done a few hypnotic inductions here on the channel, and I would encourage people who are following the 100-day challenge to try to get in their 10 minutes a day of bodily control, and to engage in some individual meditative practices. And I will check the private chat. Looks like we might have a visitor in Happy Land. Yeah, and then self-hypnosis. Like, so the basics of doing this is kind of an important thing, right? So to combine the two, first get into a meditative, posture and calm the body, relax the body. And then with the self-hypnosis, you can utilize some of the techniques of like the astral temple to plant seeds that will unlock various attributes. So, for example, one of the practices we do with the basic tree of life is that of going from Malkut into Yasad and bridging the gap. So getting into Dreamland and getting past the guardian at the threshold, or the guardian at the gate, the lurker at the threshold, the Karanzan element of the mind. And so you can take a like an amethyst colored gem. What would be another purple gemstone that you could use? Any type of purple gemstone, and you take that into the astral temple, and then you can put it on the altar. You can put it in a box. You can create the shining trapezohedron, as it were, and then you plant it there, and you realize that it gathers magical energy. And when you pass into Dreamland, you'll be able to open that box and find the shining trapezohedron, and then you'll be awakened in lucid dreaming. And so this is one of the aspects of the practice that any given individual can utilize. It can enhance your intuition and psychic abilities, and it will awaken greater levels of vision beyond the veil, right? So this is one of the things we're looking forward to. So again, if to walk you through it, take a meditative, a posture of relaxation. You could be sitting down or standing or anything, and then you go through a basic relaxation ritual. So close the eyes, do some deep breathing, and bring the energy down and relax the entire body. You could do the Kabbalistic cross if you like. And then if you do practice ceremonial magic, you could open by doing the circumambulation of the altar. And then when you get back behind your altar and you've done your adulations, then you can manifest that gemstone of Yasad and place it upon the altar and empower it and give it that affirmation that it will awaken you in Dreamland. And so that's one way to go about that. That's a self-hypnosis, right? A hypnotic induction, a singular induction to bring about bridging the gap into Dreamland. And then, of course, engage in journaling. And I've talked a lot about the Aladdin's lamp magical wish list in the past. I won't get into it now. But one thing I did want to touch on were some of the golden spiritual practices that can help one along the path of practices within the tradition. And so you've got dual or single mystic cultivation. And I won't touch on this too much here, but I think that the average ordinary individual can kind of figure out what this first one would be indicating, right? So that's one of the root practices. So if you're in a relationship, you can do dual mystic cultivation. And if you're on your own, then you'll have to do single mystic cultivation. Either way, both are appropriate for the path. And then these other ones are just some that I enjoy. Like we've got martial arts. So all different forms of training the body and mind together. This can help to unify the various aspects of the mind, right? You've got kung fu, karate, any of the martial arts. Remember, these are mostly within the sphere of Gebura, so they are militaristic, right? And you should temper those because any movement art can be appropriate, whereas dance would be on the side of Hesed, right? So dance is a little more beneficial, but it can sometimes be a little bit weak. And so combining the two, if you have the opportunity to practice both martial arts on the side of the tree, on the side, the pillar of severity, and then dance on the side of mercy. All right. And dance can also be very punishing. So just trying to balance the two. And then music, of course, if you're doing any type of musical practices, I like wind instruments. Some people like stringed instruments, right? Like the guitar, the violin, all the various types of stringed instruments, even the piano, right? It's a kind of a percussion, but it's done on strings. And then, so doing some music or singing, right? Musicality with the voice. So music can be a blessed way to cultivate spiritually. And then, of course, you have to do some art and calligraphy and sigils to get into those deeper levels of mind. But if you think about these at the ordinary prosaic level too, that how they reach to the psionic realm, right? And that mastering mind, that these are the practices of the silver key, and that they will bring about greater communion and connection with your spiritual energy, right? So it's a very good way to go about it.